Hello again, many thanks for choosing us. Definite timelines have been given by government on when the first consignment of fuel under the Gold for Oil deal will arrive on the shores of the country. Deputy Energy Minister Andre Japamesa on the AM show with my colleague Benjamin Akaklo says once the cheaper fuel arrives in January, prices will begin to go down. Vice President Dr. Balmi announced the deal in November to tackle the country's dwindling foreign exchange reserves and also to address the rising prices of petroleum products. He was hopeful that the deal will take off in March 2023. But after several engagements, Mr. Japamesa is confident the deal will take off in January.
Okay.
And indeed, His Excellency the President only last week mentioned as part of the conversations that have led to the decline of the dollar, the Gold for Oil program that we've announced on the 10th, 11th, 12th of January. The first consignment of finished products is going to arrive in this country as part of the...
Coming from where?
Oh, from the United Arab Emirates.
From the UAE?
Yes.
Between the 10th and the when?
11th, 12th January.
Of January. So let's say between the 10th and the 12th of January.
All the necessary agreements that needed to be executed has been executed.
Is this a G2G, government to government engagement?
G2B, okay. Government to business.
Government to business,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, and that's G2G conversations have also taken place. The surprise for me is the very moment that an announcement is made, then everybody expects that the next day you see it translated into action. But as with most programs, it's not an event, okay? But you need to communicate so people know exactly what it is that government is doing, okay? To give them comfort that it is not as if your leaders are sleeping on the job, but they are working to roll out a system program that would ensure that there's some complementary, not substitute. It's, for me, it's very significant that we drive home that point, that whatever it is that government is doing is intended to complement what it is that the private sector, who are operators within the space, are providing.
Let's bring in the CEO of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distribution Companies, Dr. Patrick Owusu Ofori. Mr. Ofori, thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. And so let me start off from the very last point that we had the Deputy Minister make, that this is complementary to what you are already doing. But earlier he had also indicated it will be good for you to join in order to make sure there's some evenness on the market and further drive down the prices. Is that something that you buy into?
Certainly, I think the government, since the inception of this policy through the sector, minister has been very supportive and collaboratory by involving us to also listen to how best we can all help to operationalize.
Right.
Don't forget, we all pay huge prices at the pump, and any initiative by the state and its agency, we welcome it. But I see as not just complementary, but also it enhances competition, that also brings some form of efficiency, and that also gives us the leverage to negotiate for better premiums with our partners, and then also an opportunity to also cut some form of losses and enhance efficiency and delivery that will ensure that there is.
You mentioned your partners. Are they on board as far as this program is concerned? Do you have enough information to share with them, and what has been the response?
Yes, I can confirm that at least about 3 IOTC have shown interest through us. Some are already at an advanced stage with government through this program, and then they also welcome us. They can also help us to also land products in as much as we are willing to also do business with them.
Right.
So that, to us, I think it's a welcome news, and it will bring better and a cleaner competition within the space.
Right. Thank you very much. We'll see how this pans out. We'll have a conversation in January when this begins to roll out. That's Dr. Patrick Ofori. He's president of the bulk oil distribution companies. But this is what the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Dr. Suleiman Akoni, said when we first heard the news from government when the deal was announced. This was his comments. Listen.
What we know officially is a program government called Domestic Gold Purchase Program, and we have been engaging with governments since last year when the program was launched. And this year, member companies, together with the chamber, have engaged with the Bank of Ghana and our sector ministry. And we have a situation where member companies have agreed how much they're going to sell to the Bank of Ghana for this year. And 25,000 ounces. This started in September. So between September of this year and end of year, that is the target. That's the commitment of member companies of the chamber to actually sell to the Bank of Ghana. So that is the arrangement we know about. Of course, the other leg has to do with our commitments for next year. And in a letter to the Chamber of Mines, for the benefit of our member companies, we had two targets. The first target was for 2022, and then the second target for 2023. And now in that target, you had 600,000 ounces, which represents about 20% of the production of the large-scale mining companies for the year 2021. As we speak, we have not had specific engagements on the Gold for Oil program.
Let me take you now to Parliament. Pressure group Justice for Ghana is demanding an immediate return of all funds utilized towards the construction of the controversial National Cathedral. Presenting a petition to leaders of Parliament after picketing the House, the group also demanded a rejection of the proposed increase in VAT rate and the review of the e-levy. Salom Dramani spoke for the group.
That NAPCO victims and national service personnel who have not been paid, while David Ajayi was paid 113 million upfront for no work done, immediately be paid from savings made by Parliament, stopping the 80 million budgeted for the cathedral. That the entire Ghana is not allowed to come to a standstill due to Ghana's labor union's threat of an indefinite strike action from next week. That the Parliament intervenes to avert the threats of teachers, doctors, nurses, and indeed every worker in all sectors staying home till government makes a U-turn. Ghanaians who are already suffering from the economic crisis are being threatened with further nuisance taxes, including VAT, which the president in the 90s implacably stood against. Government's haircut on investment, including an increase in VAT and removal of the e-levy threshold to cushion the poor, is resisted by Parliament on behalf of the Ghanaian people. Minority Leader, please, this one goes to you. Please, we want you to resist it. Together with your gallant members, meaning the poor will get poorer by a direct government policy intervention. Ghanaians are opposed to these policies in the 2023 budget and urge Parliament to vote against them. We are demanding that the cathedral project is immediately stopped. We are demanding that the cathedral project is immediately stopped. Immediately. It bears repeating. We are demanding that the cathedral project is immediately stopped. Immediately. All payment returned.
The Minority Leader Haruna Idris, whose side is singing from the same hymn book as the protesters, pledged to serve their interests. He also insisted the Finance Minister must be brought before Parliament to answer questions on the proposed debt exchange program.
The leadership and members of Justice for Ghana you have expressed your legitimate concerns. Some of it we share, and we share at the level that a debt exchange program, we should have anticipated it and probably avoided it. Ghana Beyond Aid has now become Ghana Beyond Eurobonds, and its implications on our economy. We share a strong view that pensions funds should be exempt from the debt exchange initiative in order to guarantee post-retirement security for pensioners and for it to be properly invested. We will demand that Parliament is apprised of the full details of the content of the external debt exchange and that of the domestic debt. So be assured that we share those concerns. Matters of e-levy would be on the floor. We'll take some decisions that are appropriate. Our position on VAT, you already know it. So once again, God bless you.
Meanwhile, the second Deputy Majority Whip, Habib Idrisu, has argued that the taxes are necessary to take the country out of the current economic difficulties.
Minority Leader said we will receive the petition on behalf of the Parliament of Ghana and the Speaker. But what I can assure you is that not only Parliament, but we in the majority, we are also concerned. And we do admit that times are hard and times are difficult at this material moment. That is why, when times are hard and times are difficult, we need to sacrifice as Ghanaians. If you go around all over the world, you will see that governments or Ghanaians or citizens of various countries are contributing to the development of their nation. At the moment, Ghana, if you look at our tax to GDP, we are still doing around 13% when you come to tax to GDP. How can government fund its projects, its programs, if actually certain people are not being taxed? So definitely, we should all participate in helping government to achieve the needed development that we intend achieving. And I can assure you that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, will not exhibit the dead goat syndrome. He will definitely listen to you. And the criteria, like you said, at committee level, we came to agreement and make sure that it didn't go through. We will see. Today we'll do the appropriation and we'll be able to see that certain concerns that you have.
And still in Parliament, the House has approved an amendment to the E-Levy Act after government beat a retreat. Government announced in the 2023 budget a reduction of the E-Levy rate from 1.5% to 1%, but wanted to remove the daily threshold of 100 Ghana cedis. Now, the daily threshold of 100 cedis is now maintained as part of the amendment. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins me via Zoom with some more on this development. Kweku, what does this mean for the ordinary Ghanaian? But tell us, event leading to this amendment.
So, Ernest, you know that about 3 weeks ago when Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta presented the 2023 budget, he announced that government was seeking to review the e-levy. He said that the government had listened to Ghanaians and they were reviewing the rate from 1.5% to 1%. But that they were removing the daily threshold, which meant that if you transferred any amount of money, it would attract 1% e-levy. But after some back and forth and the minority insisting that if this came to the floor of the House, they were going to vote against it, the Finance Ministry has now revised the plan. And so now the e-levy has been moved from 1.5% to 1%, but the daily threshold of 100 Ghana cedi is still intact. The chairman of the Finance Committee moved the motion. It was seconded by the ranking member on the Finance Committee, Dr. Kiselatu Forsen, who said that the minority would wish for the e-levy to be totally abolished. But if government had seen reason and has removed it from 1.5% to 1%, then they're happy with it. But in the coming days, they'll be expecting government to increase the daily threshold from 100 cedis to about 200 cedis, because they believe that 100 cedis a year ago has lost value as against now. So e-levy has now been, the amendment bill has now been passed in Parliament. Ernest.
Kweku, thank you very much for bringing us those details. And that's Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante there. And still on happenings in Parliament today, the plan of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs to raise the euro equivalent of more than 1 billion Ghana cedis to reconstruct the Accra International Conference Center has been scuttled by the minority. The minority raised concerns at the committee, culminating in a rejection of the plan by the House. Ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, said that the project is not a necessity in this current harsh economic climate.
The Accra International Conference Center redevelopment project. Mr. Speaker, it will surprise you to hear that a whopping 160 million euros has been earmarked for this project in what is being described as a PPP arrangement. Mr. Speaker, as we have noted in our report, and I want to read verbatim from page 19, the last paragraph. Some members of the committee expressed their inability to support the reconstruction of the Accra International Conference Center because of the distressed nature of the current economy. They again argued that the reconstruction of the AICC has not been captured in the list of essential projects of the Ministry of Finance for the year 2023. The committee recommends that the ministry endeavors to produce the report of the feasibility studies and the structural integrity on the AICC to inform future decisions on the project. Mr. Speaker, we want the House and the Hansard to record that our side does not support this project, particularly at this time. We have not seen the structural integrity report. We have not seen the value for money report. We have not seen the feasibility studies report.
Okudzeto-Ablakwa also described as unnecessary the plan of the ministry to open new embassies around the world.
Mr. Speaker, we have cautioned that in this hour of economic crisis, at a time that the Finance Ministry has put out a statement that for the first time probably since the 70s, the Achampon era of Yentumintua and Yentua, we cannot meet our external debt servicing obligations. We cannot, Mr. Speaker, be pursuing what I call prestige projects, projects that are non-essential, projects that can wait. So, Mr. Speaker, we want to place on record that we do not think it is a great idea at this time to be opening a new diplomatic mission in Jamaica, in Trinidad and Tobago, and in Mexico, as has been programmed for projects to be executed in 2023. We have conveyed our strong objection to this plan by the ministry.
Stay a while longer in Parliament because MPs have criticized what they say is government's overdrive to raise money. Government is seeking to amend the Excuse Duty Act to introduce new tax items and to also increase others. Listen to the ranking member on the Finance Committee list the items which are now to be taxed, including fruit juices and electronic cigarettes.
They are telling us that fruit juice that in the past used not to attract taxes is going to see a 20% increase in tax. Fruit juices will be taxed at excise rate of 20% at the ex-factory price. The Speaker, it is also important to notice that apart from fruit juice, the government seeks to introduce taxes on a number of items. An example is cigar, Negro head. We were told that Negro head is going to also receive a new tax increase. Speaker, the committee, when we asked what a Negro head is, nobody knew what a Negro head. Others were of the view that it was weed. The Speaker, again, we saw in the bill that the government intend to introduce a tax on snuff of 280 Ghana cedis per kilogram, snuff. They also informed us that electronic cigars will be seeing a tax of 50% at the ex-factory price. This is a government that wants money, and so they want to extend their hands everywhere and take taxes left, right, and center to fund their activity.
The MP for Bia East, Richard Echampon, asked government to take it easy on consumers of fruit juice. Here's why.
Here we are introducing taxes on cigar, spirits, alcoholic beverages, we consider those things as a sin tax. So that's why we do agree with government, because we need to deter the youth from smoking and drinking these spirits alcoholic beverages. And they move to fruit juice and other beverages. Mr. Speaker, so what is the point again? You are taxing us when we take alcohol application and the rest, you are taking taxes from us. If you want to stop drinking application, you want to drink fruit juice, you want to also take tax from us. So do you want to kill us in this country? And they told us that because of sugar level, obesity, and all that. There's no scientific proof. No research work has been done. Nobody can share with us any document indicating that people are taking some beverages and they are putting on more weight. Obesity is one of the issues in this country. So you don't want us to take application. You don't want us to take cognac. You want to take fruit juice and say, I want to tax you. If you want money, governments become autopols. Non-alcoholic beverages, they want to tax us. Spreading their tentacles everywhere. Do you want us to run away from this country? It's not fair. Let's stick to the alcoholic beverages, tax those people who take cigar and what. But we those who have repented and want to take fruit juice and beverages, leave us alone. Leave us alone to live longer.
Well, some of my colleagues do agree. But on his part, MP for Yape Kusogo, John Chinapo, said older people who are also into snuffs are being unfairly targeted with the introduction of taxes on that product.
But you see, snuff, Abba, it has become snuff, yes, snuff. They want to tax snuff. Snuff, they want to tax snuff. No. I mean, and sometimes this snuff, it relaxes the body for our grandfathers. My grandfather, I do not use snuff, but my grandfather uses the snuff in order to calm down his blood pressure. Now you are saying this snuff, this small one that is taking, you want to tax it. Mr. Speaker, even the cigarette, one stick, one drop. Cigarette, one drop, just one drop for a filling. They want to tax $0.02 on that stick of cigarettes. But what even surprises me is that after all these taxes, they are going to get only 400 million. That is the expected amount, 400 million. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want to join hands with my colleagues that when it comes to spirits, when it comes to wine, and those of you who consume wine, at least some of us, we know our levels, so these taxes, we are out of that bracket. Those of you who consume whiskey, those of you who take tobacco, you are in trouble. But there's small fruit juice that we also take. The fruit juice. As for that one, I want to make a passionate appeal to my sister, the Honorable Abna.
Now, away from Parliament, the National House of Chiefs is entreating government to engage organized labor and other disgruntled groupings on the debt exchange program. It comes at the back of threats from labor groups to embark on an indefinite strike over the program's implementation. President of the House of Chiefs, Ojiahoho Yaojebi II, believes the buy-in of various interest groups will ease implementation. And now Jima has more in the following report.
To deal with the country's ailing economy, the government embarked on a program with the International Monetary Fund, which comes with conditionality. In the 2023 budget, the government froze public sector employment and introduced other austere measures. A decision to enter a debt exchange program, which has a negative effect on investments, is being strongly opposed by Labour. President of the National House of Chiefs, Ojiahoho Yaojebi II, addressed the House on the issue.
Government has announced very necessary but difficult measures to revive the ailing economy. Indeed, the austerity measures of the debt exchange program and the freezing of public sector employment in the 2023 budget, and of course, the economic policy statement of the government, as well as the consistent hikes in inflation of prices of goods and services, coupled with the haircut on government of Ghana bonds, have all caused uproar in the labor front. The government will call on the government to engage the Labour Front to appreciate the rationale behind the harsh measures introduced in the budget. At the same vein, we also call on the Labour Front and indeed all people affected by this haircut to reasonably dialogue with government so that we can go through the IMF program successfully.
The House is also entreating the public to support steps being taken by government to improve the economy.
National House of Chiefs would like to entreat all Ghanaians to support the government to roll out a successful IMF program to bring respite to Ghanaians. It is the expectation of all Ghanaians that in due course the country will secure board and management levels approval from the IMF to support a balance of payment deficit leading to the path of economic recovery.
Meanwhile, the traditional leaders are encouraging investment in technology to spur the agriculture sector. Ojiahoho Yaojebi believes such investments can help reduce importation and stabilize the local currency.
Nananum salute all our Ghanaian farmers and fishermen throughout the country. We also congratulate the award winners across the length and breadth of the country, especially the overall chief farmer or the overall best farmer for 2022. While we continue to encourage them to put up their best to feed the nation and get some for export, we also call for support from government and other organizations to come to the aid of farmers with farming implements and logistics.
For Joy News, Nana Yaojima, Kumasi.
Many thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Now, the governing New Patriotic Party is calling on former President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC to render an unqualified apology to the judiciary and Ghanaians. This comes days after the newly elected chairman of the party, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, revealed the NDC did not have sufficient evidence to back its election petition. General Secretary of the NPP, Ernest Kojo, insists the actions by the NDC was reckless and had the potential of exposing the country to extreme political violence.
You didn't have any evidence, but just because of selfish interest and political power, they were prepared to jeopardize the peace and stability in the country, even when they knew they didn't have any evidence. In effect, the NDC has sought to take the entire nation to ransom for their electoral defeat. Undoubtedly, they wanted to make this country ungovernable. The NDC induced unnecessary tension was indeed intended to destabilize the country and scare investors, both of which have had adverse impact on the Ghanaian economy to date. After intense public opprobrium against their undemocratic and violent conduct, the NDC decided belatedly to challenge the outcome of the election by filing a presidential election petition at the Supreme Court, even when Chachuchi Kata, their lawyer, had advised them otherwise, as admitted by Mr. Asiedu Nketia. Undoubtedly, they deliberately wasted the court's time for months with their unmeritorious petition. Even the media was not spared of the NDC unjustified attacks. Colleagues from the media, as you recall, reporters from UTV, City FM, and other media houses were physically attacked for their coverage of the 2020 general elections and subsequent election petition, and you are all witness to that. We therefore wish to reiterate our demand for John Dramani Mahama and the NDC leadership on account of their own confession to render an unqualified apology, first to the nation's judiciary, which they have bastardized without justification, and to the rest of the country for wasting our precious time and creating unnecessary tension in the aftermath of the 2020 general election. They must render an unqualified apology to the good people of Ghana.
Now, Mr. Kojo says he is not worried about the capacity of the new executives of the NDC. He advised his counterpart, Fifi Kwete, to shun propaganda and engage in intellectual discourse as General Secretary.
Well,
I'm surprised people want to bring that discussion or debate. He has his own style. I also have my own style. At the end of the day, we all went into our elections and won respectively. And for me, it's not a matter of being a soft-spoken person or being a loud voice or noise-making person. What is important and what will determine which political party wins in 2024 is the strategy that both or in the individual respective political parties will put in place. And for me, as the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, I'm more focused on strategy and as to what we need to do to win the 2024 election. And mind you, our history, our ideology are not the same. The criteria based on which NDC will elect their executives is certainly different from that of the MPP.
Now, General, they are doing the mapping here. Johnson has said Nketiah against Stephen Tim, you against Fifi Kwete, Nanabi against Yamin. Looking at the capacities of your executives and that of the NDC, do you think it really match?
Well, for me, 2024 elections will decide. The political party that was able to put in place a wonderful, resilient strategy in winning the election. That's the outcome. Because at the end of the day, it's not about Nanabi is A, Seydou Ketia is B, Fifi Kwete is D. No. And like I indicated to you, we are two distinct political parties. Our history is different from their history. How our party was formed is different from how their party was formed. And again, we are in government, they are in opposition. So what we need to do to retain power is different from what they need to do to win power to win the elections. So we are two different political parties.
So lastly, you had an advice for Fifi Kwete. Can you say that again?
No, but as you know, I'm senior to him. I became General Secretary before he did. So as my junior General Secretary, I gave my advice, and which is very straightforward, that he should know that he's not or no more a propaganda secretary, but he has become administrator of a major political party in Ghana, and his actions and inactions should marry the position that he occupies. We all know what happened in 2008 when he made several unsavory comments about his former President Kufuor, that he has stolen all the goals in Ghana and kept it somewhere, and also MPP had some forest accounts which all turned out to be false. And even when he appeared before the vetting committee in Parliament, he had to render unqualified apology. We don't need that kind of behavior for the position that he occupies now. And I'm looking forward to having a very fruitful relationship with him as General Secretary of a major political party. And anytime, any day, anywhere, if we have to debate, it will be based on matters of national interest, matters of records, achievements, and it will not be on propaganda and deceit. For that one, I will not go on that tangent.
Are you matching him boot for boot?
I'm not matching him boot for boot, but I'm always ready to set the records.
Now, as Christmas approaches, people are contemplating the menu for what many consider as the most joyful dinner that comes at a low cost. It has been months now since the Ministry of Food and Agriculture brought its Planting for Food and Jobs market in the wake of the escalating food prices. However, there's low patronage of foodstuff despite the relative cheaper prices at the PFJ markets. John News' Prince Osu and Prince Kwame have been finding out why.
Affordable food prices. That has been the key mark of the Planting for Food and Jobs market. The ministry rolled out this initiative to drive down prices following complaints of exorbitant food prices on the general market. But after a few weeks of booming trade, the numbers have dwindled. Press Secretary to the Minister of Food and Agriculture, Issa Al-Hassan, explains it's because the program has achieved its goal of competitive pricing.
We peg our price, it's more or less like hedging. So even despite the increasing prices of food items on the market generally, our price has always been the same. You understand? So it's not like we are revealing it to the advantage of the sellers. Because remember, these are also traders who have brought the items from far away. They are also trading on the same market like everybody. And so we have asked them to hedge it to a certain price, which has been so since we started this program. The market is picking up because it's early days. We started actual sales from this regional office yesterday. And so we expect the number to improve.
Meanwhile, some patrons insist food stuff at the Planting for Food and Jobs market are relatively cheaper than those on the open market.
I think the price is better now because the things have come down a little bit. So it's better. Because at first, what we are buying at 20 cedis was around 30 or 35.
I asked the prices of goods in town, and I realized, and I came here too, and after comparing, I realized it was cheaper here. That was why I decided to come. One big tuber of yam, I asked in town it was 18 cedis, but when I came, I realized it was 10 cedis. So I decided to come and buy from.
I think Gare, they are selling Gare at 15 cedis at Mokola, but here is 13 cedis. So I'll be able to buy the Gare.
The ongoing public sensitization on COVID-19 vaccination has received positive response in the Ashanti region. The Ghana Health Service and its partners, the United Nations Children's Fund, have been on a 5-day intensive campaign to mop up mass vaccination as Christmas approaches. Officials are enthused with the rate of response. Love FM's Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom has more in this report.
The 5-day mass COVID-19 vaccination stimulation campaign in the Ashanti region has seen a sublime increase as the general public respond positively to the exercise. Various district health officers have adopted several strategies to ensure the success of the operation. Some members of the general public who were vaccinated spoke to Love News. Today, I have decided to take the vaccine after getting some medication from the health team and UNICEF. The Kwadaso District Director of Health, Grace Billy, observed an improved compliance to the vaccination exercise.
In terms of compliance for the COVID vaccination, generally from the beginning, Kwadaso has been very great. Right from the word go, we had lots of people trooping in. We also do the door-to-door, house-to-house campaign. We have employed that strategy. We go to churches on Sundays, so we target the SDA churches on Saturdays, and also we are using the community structures, the assembly members, the opinion leaders, and the queen mothers to talk to the masses about COVID preventive protocols and the need to get vaccinated.
The social behavior change officer at UNICEF, Charity Nikwe, explained the trigger for the sensitization exercise. She lauded the German Federal Foreign Office for funding the sensitization campaign.
UNICEF is here to support government in everything that it does, including health, and especially for epidemics such as, or pandemics such as COVID. Support the regions that are very weak or hardest hit. And so Ashanti and Greater Accra are one of the regions that are hardest hit, and that's why we are in Ashanti. We are being sponsored or financially supported by the German Federal Office, and it's 100% sponsorship from them.
Reporting for Joy News, Nana Boache Dankwa Yadom.